Alrighty, Dave. We're going to get Fred from Mesa calling on his 2002 GMC Yukon. Fred, what can we do for you today?
Well, I think this question's for Dave because you passed Auto Shop.
Yeah, we haven't got to that story yet. There was a payoff involved.
Yeah, there was.
I've got an 02 GMC Yukon XL, and I've developed, it's 127,000 miles. I've developed a little hum that I'm noticing as I drive now, that the best way I can describe it is it's the sound when those very large tires with all the knobbies on usually a lifted truck, it makes that hum on the road.
Rah, 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 kind of thing?
Yep,
okay.
Exactly. The weird part about it is it goes away when I turn right. At about a quarter turn of the wheel, it goes away and then comes back when I start going straight again.
Dave's over there going, me. I know the answer.
Me.
He served him up a softball, so he thinks he can get it right. Well, let's ask these guys.
What do you guys think?
What do you two guys think? I already know what it is, I think. What happens when you turn right?
It goes, are you talking to me?
No, I'm talking to them. Well, it unloads the other side of the suspension. So you've probably got a wheel bearing that's noisy. So you're going down the road, it's making noise. When you turn to the right, you're loading the left side and unloading the right side front wheel. So that's why the noise goes away. I bet if you swerve slightly left, it gets worse. Kind of like watching the IndyCar race or something. You watch the drivers warming the tires. Go do that on a residential or a street where you can safely do that. And if the tone changes and goes away left to right, 99% of the time you've got a bad wheel bearing.
Hey, Fred, pretty good for a guy who failed the class, huh?
That's why I still do the softball.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I would think is if it changes on and off the gas, sometimes I think about differential bearings.
That's what I was going to say.
Definitely with the swerving, I'm going to be.
Yeah, and on that Yukon, you could possibly get a ABS warning light coming on, because if the hub is really bad, the sensor is built into that hub assembly.
Right.
So in some cases, you'll get a check engine light, and then when you replace that, it's an entire hub assembly. It'll come with a sensor, the whole deal.
Well, if it's in the back, it's axle bearings, so you got to pull the axle out, the C-clip differential cover.
But it's not the back, Dave.
All right, fine.
Okay, one more. Let's grab Jerry in Glendale on his 1985 Mercedes. Jerry, what can we do for you today?
Yeah, I have a hard time shifting number 3, the transmission.
Okay, so what's happening with the transmission?
Well, when you start a car and then you start drive, you start to drive and then shift number first and second and number third, just RPM goes so high, and then when you press the throttle all the way to the down and then shift hard.
All right, well this is...
And then when you shift first time, it doesn't have any problem shifting at all day.
So you go 1, 2, 3, goes and just revs.
Never gets third
Correct.
gear.
Does it ever get to fourth gear?
Yes.
Okay, it does. Dave, this is all you because that's transmission.
You know, I hate to say it, even though I passed Auto Shop, I don't know anything about a 1985 Mercedes. I know that it's cable-driven, so there's a cable that runs from the throttle pedal essentially down to the transmission, so the transmission knows when to shift.
But it sounds to me like third gear is gone, though.
Third gear is gone altogether.
Yeah, that's something that's going to need to be in a transmission shop, Jerry. More than likely, or a good general auto repair shop, which you can find any of them at bumpertobumperradio.com. It's just something that needs to get in the shop, but more likely you have an internal failure in the transmission. So the transmission basically needs to be overhauled, just as a broad stroke. Take it apart, find out what's wrong with it, check the condition of everything else inside, and fix the problem.
Go from there. 1985 Mercedes. So I would go with that. Thanks for the call, Jerry. Well, who we got first, Matt?
We have got Karen, Steve, and Murphy in queue, and we're going with Murphy from Peoria on his 1997 Silverado. What can we do for you today, Murphy?
Well, I've got a little problem. I wasn't sure if it was first of all, I want to congratulate the students and the instructor. That's incredible. Trying to work on vehicles on my own for all the years, I can understand how frustrated it can be trying to trace down a little problem.
Well, they appreciate that because they're all sitting here smiling.
Yeah. It's deer in the headlights with a microphone in front of them, but that's okay.
Well, 97 Silverado, and I have a problem. I'll be going down the road, and all of a sudden the steering wheel does a really quick jerk to the side, And I correct it real quick, and then it goes back and dries fine. I've had the front end replaced as far as the tie rods and all that good stuff, shocks, everything. I have not done the steering gear or the power steering pump, and I was curious could it be one of those items.
Well, yeah, it can. Is the truck lifted or anything? Does it have oversized tires?
It's totally stock, totally stock.
Maybe something's like loose where the gearbox is shifting and that drag link, the distance is changing.
Well, yeah, there's something going on in there. I mean, those trucks, usually around 100,000 miles or so, they've got worn out pitman arm, worn out tie rod ends. Could be an inner tie rod end, control arm bushings. I mean, there's so many different things that could be. And Dave's Car Care, we were just talking about 51st Avenue in Peoria. That's a front end work on that truck is nothing that any of the shops can handle. Not a big deal. It's just a matter of finding out if there's anything worn out and then getting a proper alignment done.
Is that a two-wheel drive or a four-wheel drive?
We didn't ask.
He didn't say. But in the old days, a solid axle, when the spring perches would wear out, you would get a shift, and the steering wheel would all of a sudden be off 25
Well,
degrees.
and just like the other guy that was calling with the wheel bearing, probably a wheel bearing problem. If it was really bad, that can cause it to steer on its own a little bit and grab the ruts. But I would suspect if it was that bad, you're going to be hearing the grinding and the noise. So it's just something you need to get back into the front end shop or back into a shop and have them relook at everything. And as long as it's tight, then check the alignment. So, all righty, next up is we're going to grab Karen from Mesa with her 2005 Tahoe. It looks like it is General Motors Truck Day today, Dave. Karen, what can we help you with?
Well, I have a light that came on that says Service Ride Control. And I figured out that it has to do with the rear shocks because if I hook my boat up to it, it does not air up and lift.
So you've got the model that has the rear air shocks, and then it's got electronic dampening on the front shocks.
Yeah.
So there's there's something happening. Do you ever come out and the back end of the truck is sagging or sitting down? Looks like a little lowrider in the tail end?
No, it doesn't do that.
I mean, there could be something as simple as a level position sensor not properly calibrated or failing. The good thing is that it turned on the light. So when the light comes on, that's going to set a fault code probably in the body control module. And then you've got to have a scan tool to go in and test that. So chances are you have a leaking rear air shock, maybe an air line. You could have a bad compressor possibly. Just there's a handful of things in there, but that shouldn't be too terribly hard to figure out. And then one other thing on that, I know Dave wanted to say something, but those are expensive. But there are kits you can buy to get rid of all the extra air shocks and go to a coil over type shock and get rid of the electronics on the front, put that light out forever. So, all right, up next we've got Steve calling with his 2002 GMC Sonoma again. Another GMC day. What can we do for you, Steve?
How you doing today?
Doing great, thank you.
Hey, I got just a real quick one. Talking of a sleeper, high school advanced auto shop and everything out in Gilbert. About 30 years ago, we did a 64 Corvair, boarded 60 over, shaved the heads, and put a half cam in it, and that was a nice little sleeper 14.
The question is why.
Well,
we never had any fun projects in my class like that.
We had a Chevette.
Just got to be different once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So what's going on with your Sonoma today?
Well, it's my son's Sonoma. He had a water leak. It was running the back and dripping off the starter. And come to find out it was leaking up there in the intake up in the front. So tore it all apart, put all the gaskets. We cleaned everything up and everything. Put all the gaskets in there and got it all sealed back up. And now we can't seem to get it started. I've gone through and double-checked all the wires, make sure all the plugs are back in and everything. Pulled the number one, pulled it up for timing. I went through the system to cycle the computer system where you go forward, go into crank and back it off, let it shut it off, and then go in on position.
Let me ask you a quick question. That is a distributor model or distributor-less?
Distributor model.
Okay. Does it have spark?
Yes.
Does it have fuel pressure?
As far as I can tell, I don't have a gauge, but when you turn the key on, the pump kicks on for a little bit and then shuts down.
Okay. And you know it has spark because you have a spark tester, or how did you confirm that it has spark?
Pulled the wire and cranked it.
And it zapped you or jumped or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, and the car was running.
The wife folded, actually.
Yeah.
Did you pull the distributor when you pulled the manifold?
Yes, you have to.
That's what
That's probably off 180.
I would be. Is it coughing or backfiring or doing anything when you're cranking it?
No, it's not.
Okay. Well, I mean, if the car was running before you pulled it down to do the gaskets, it's obviously something that you did. You need to very carefully go look through, make sure you don't have any wires pinched in any bolts or brackets or anything like that. Make sure that you didn't leave any ground wires off. And once you've covered those basics, I would be going back and looking at the timing. Get it back on top dead center. Get the distributor out of it. And make sure that is realigned. Make sure the rotor's still good, and it's something that you missed. You're gonna, when you catch it, you're gonna slap yourself upside the head and say, how did I miss that? So,
well, thanks so much for the call, Steve, and thanks for the Corvair story. Well, fact or fiction for today, I thought would be I've heard that if I put denatured alcohol in my fuel tank, it will get me through emissions if it's not passing.
I think there's an ulterior motive behind this thing. You guys want to take a shot? Fact or fiction?
I'm going to say that's fact.
You say that's fact? How about you?
It is not a guarantee, and I'm going to say, what was it? Was there kind of faction or partly fact, partly fiction? So
he's going for the legislature.
It works.
Yeah.
On a politician. On a carbureted model, I will say fiction, and an older one at that.
Fiction.
I mean, fact.
Yeah, you can't even get it straight. No wonder you didn't pass auto shop. I would go with fact if it's pretty darn close. And you need to get it through. I wouldn't fill the complete tank with alcohol, but
well, yeah, you need to go buy about 20 dozen 6-ounce bottles or whatever they sell denatured alcohol.
It makes a very minor.
They'll probably think you have a meth lab going. Or
it'll make a minor adjustment. I guess there's a chance it could do a little bit of cleaning too. Alcohol does some of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about it, and I saw it, a long time ago, 15 years ago, people doing it, and they're just go put a whole bunch in the fuel tank, and whatever it does, it oxygenates the fuel or something, I don't know, and it helps lower the carbon monoxide. And we're going to go to Trish first. She looks like she's got some questions about some tools at a garage sale. That's a new one. What can we do for you, Trish?
Hi. My dad is a retired mechanic, and he has, triples of their tools, and he wants to get rid of them, but we just don't know where to do it. We've been on Craigslist and haven't had any snags, so I thought maybe you can give me an idea where to go.
That's, Craigslist would be my first choice, although how long was your dad a mechanic? To give me an idea of what the tools that he might have are.
He's been a mechanic for about 30 years or so.
Okay. Well, the best bet would be, find somebody that is getting into the business, maybe.
I'm thinking a high school shop teacher might be a good bet. You got any students needing some tools?
Always.
Yeah, you might,
What school are they near?
What part of town are you in, Trish?
We're in Scottsdale.
Scottsdale.
It's tough. And is your dad helping you try to get away with them or to sell them? Do you know what the tools are and what their values are or anything, or do you have not really any idea?
I don't really have any idea, and he's not really computer literate, so
okay.
I'm kind of doing it for him. They're all Craftsman and Mac tools. He's got a huge toolbox that's got actually a stereo in it. Mm-hmm. It weighs a couple of 1,000 pounds,
right.
And he's trying to get rid of that. And there's their wrenches and ratchets, and he's got a couple of test pieces of equipment.
Sure.
An idea it would be maybe call UTI, a Universal Technical Ford Asset Training Program, where they have students that are going to be getting into the business. Mm-hmm. Those would be good ones to contact.
Well, and another good option for you, if you can't, you might split them up. It's going to be hard to sell the whole thing. You might be able to sell the boxes separately. You might break them down into packages. They may or may not have a lot of value. That's why I wonder if you've just been doing it a long time. A lot of those tools might be antiquated, and maybe just donate them. You know, a lot of these shop programs are short on funds, and they could use some tools, and you might get a good tax write-off out of it.
Well, for mechanics straight out of school, you know, they always go out and buy all these tools, and they go broke like almost off the bat. So I like to see them start out with used tools.
Well, yeah, and, you know, and that's one thing people don't understand. I mean, I bet over the years your dad invested $50, $60, up to $100,000 in those tools, and I know I did. And my toolbox is in my garage, and I hate to say it, it's not worth much anymore. If you had to go replace it all, it'd cost you a bunch. But just every day, you know, to find somebody to buy them, it'd probably be a little tough. So,
thanks so much for the call, Trish.
And send us an email. Maybe we can help you if you come to a dead end. But that's about what we've got for you today. That's the best we could come up with, anyway. So Tammy calling on her 2003 Chevy Cavalier, another Chevrolet product today. Tammy, what can we help you with?
Hi, yeah, I've been having this problem with my car for about 9 months now where it just occasionally won't start and doesn't make any noise or anything. It just won't start. And if I wait maybe 5 or 10 minutes, then it'll start. But now the time in between these incidents is getting more frequent, and now it's taking, you know, up to an hour before it'll start. It's got a new battery. Not the battery. It's been in the shop for 2 days now, and they can't find what's wrong. Because once I got it to the shop, now it starts, of course.
Well, that's the way it always works. Now,
but
when you say it won't start, now I think I heard you say nothing, like it's dead, like it has a dead battery. It's just not cranking. It's not going no, like it's out of gas. It's just dead.
Just silence. No noise.
Does the dashboard light up at all when you turn the key forward?
Oh, that I haven't paid attention. I don't know.
Well, so like the warning light, the check engine light, and all the stuff that does like the AC blower fan come on? Does it seem like the car is coming alive, like the radio and everything would work? It just won't start?
No, nothing's happening.
Nothing at all. I'm going to be leaning towards an ignition switch maybe, or a main power relay. Our students over here nodding their head yes.
We've seen that before.
Yeah.
What are you saying, an ignition switch?
I would be looking at the ignition switch, because if everything is dead and the car is not cranking over, then it's going to be something that is in common with everything. One thing that can affect everything, and that would be the ignition switch. Now, if you're turning the key to the on position and the radio comes on, maybe the brake light on the dash and some of the warning lights come on like they're supposed to, and then you go to crank it and it doesn't do anything, then I'd be looking more at a starter or a starter relay.
For sure.
Dave?
I think ignition switch is it.
What's your guess? Ignition switch?
You know, I got an A in shop class, so ignition switch for sure. I'll go.
Bob, if we can get you in real quick, and your radio's down on your 2005 Chevy Malibu, Bob will help you real quick. Bob?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a problem when I put the car in drive. It shakes. The engine shakes, but it sits perfectly in park.
So does it do the same thing if you're just driving along and you come up to a stop sign or come to the red light? Does the car shake too?
Yeah, it basically moves to the beat of the radio.
Okay. Students, what do you think? Should be an easy one for you. A little vibration? Think it needs a tune-up?
If I had to guess, there may be something my guess would probably be even check the engine mounts too. If you're getting, when you stop, a little vibration.
That's my guess too.
You're right on the money.
Yeah.
Engine mounts. That common when the front wheel drive cars were being popular, especially the Hondas. We'd have people coming in all the time wanting a tune-up. I need a tune-up. I need a tune-up. No.
Well, how would you? We've talked about how you would check that in your own driveway. I mean, you could bring a floor jack underneath the engine with a piece of wood on it, and just real lightly bring the motor up. Jack up from the oil pan.
Take a floor jack, and you want a piece of wood just to protect the oil pan. And now you're not jacking it up to lift the car off the ground. You want to have somebody in the car, obviously the brakes set. You want to be safety conscious no matter what. Don't be lying underneath the car without jack stands or anything. And then have somebody just jack the motor up just slightly, a half an inch. And if that smooths out, you've probably got bad motor mounts.
Yeah. And the reason there's no issue in park or in neutral is there's no load on the motor.
Yeah.
So you pull it in a gear, it loads it up a little bit. That's the way it feels.